morning. Everybody's well and excited to start chapter 13, which is the first chapter in the new section. The Great Experiment Begins. Exciting. Chapter 13, The Experiment of a Lifetime. Thus far, my entire path to inner freedom was focused around my meditations. That was where I went to become filled with a deep sense of peace and serenity, and it was working to a degree. I could sit for hours with a beautiful flow of energy lifting me upwards, but I couldn't break through to where I longed to go. Furthermore, the personal mind always returned once I got up and became active. I needed help, and it came one day in the flash of a realization. It dawned on me that perhaps I'd been going about this in the wrong way. Instead of trying to free myself by constantly quieting the mind, perhaps I should be asking why the mind's so active. What is the motivation behind all of the mental chatter? If what motivation were to be removed, then the struggle would be over. This realization opened the door for an entirely new and exciting dimension to my practices. As I explored it inwardly, the first thing I noticed was that most of the mental activity involved around my likes and dislikes. If my mind had a preference towards or against something, it actively talked about it. I could see that it was these mental preferences that were creating much of the ongoing dialogue about how to control everything in my life. In a bold attempt to free myself from all personal preferences and instead start the willful practice of accepting what the flow of life was presenting to me, perhaps this change in focus would quiet things down inside. I actually watched an interview with Mickey, and he said that that's his definition of enlightenment: having no personal preference. I started this new practice with something very simple: the weather. Could it really be so hard to just let it rain when it rains and be sunny when it's sunny without complaining about it? Apparently the mind cannot do it. Why did it have to rain today? It always rains and I don't want it to. It had all week to rain. It's just not fair. I simply replaced all the meaningless noise with, look how beautiful it's raining. I found these practices of acceptance very powerful, and they definitely serve to quiet the mind. So I decided to push the envelope and broaden the range of events that I would learn to accept. I clearly remember deciding that from now on in life, if life was unfolding in a certain way, and the only reason that I was resisting it was because of a personal preference, I would let it go. I would let go of my preference and let life be in charge. Clearly, these were uncharted waters for me, and most of us. Where would I end up? If my preferences were not leading me, what would happen to me? These questions did not scare me, but rather fascinated me. I didn't want to be in charge of my life anyways. I wanted to be free and soar far beyond myself. I began to see this as a great experiment. What would happen to me if I just inwardly surrendered my resistance and let the flow of life be in charge? The rules of the experiment were very simple. If life brought events in front of me, I would treat them as if they came to take me beyond myself. If my personal self complained, I would use each opportunity to simply let him go and surrender to what life was presenting me. This was the birth of what I came to call the Surrender Experiment, which is the name of the book. And I was totally prepared to see where it would take me. You might think that only a madman would make such a decision, but in truth, I had already experienced some of the most amazing things with the flow of life and what it had done for me. I had witnessed firsthand what happened when I let go and followed the subtle events that led me to the hills of Mexico, and then to those wonderful experiences with the Mexican villagers, When I got back to the States, I had been lent to my beautiful new property, and look what happened with the house. I just wanted to build a simple hut, and it turned into an unexpectedly rich experience. It was clear to me that I had not done these things, that they actually happened for me. In fact, if I had not let go of my initial mental resistance, none of it could have happened in the first place. I had gone through most of my life thinking I knew it was good for me, but life itself seemed to actually know better. I was now going to test the presumption of non-randomness to the maximum. I was willing to roll the die and let the flow of life be in charge.